What's a pirate's favorite letter?
Arg.
You think it'd be R, but it's the C that I love.
Oh my gosh. Stupid.
So today, speaking of the C, we are reviewing the show Bubble Guppies.
Why?
Because I said so.
Bubble Guppies is a show that's targeted towards preschoolers and maybe a little bit of kindergartners.
What's so good about it?
It is aired on Nickelodeon, but it also can be found on Amazon. What's that? Streaming? Amazon's Prime Video. Prime Video.
What do you know?
20 to 23 minutes long each episode.
It teaches a variety of things, like any kid's show. From, there's episodes about digging up dinosaurs.
I'm digging for dinosaur fossils.
Dinosaur what?
What rock and roll is.
I need to rock.
Riding in an ambulance.
What happened here?
He fell off his tricycle.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
things along
very wide range of things. Things that are kind of important to things that are not really that important, like trick-or-treating.
Everybody wears a costume and we totally rock.
That's a show about a group of kids, six of them? Seven of them?
There's six at the beginning, and then they added a seventh in the fifth season.
And the main adult character is their teacher, who's just a gigantic goldfish.
Well, good afternoon, everyone.
Okay, so let's get into the show itself. Starting with, the main title, Bubble Guppies.
Bubble, 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 guppy, guppy, guppy.
What the heck is a Bubble Guppy?
When you think Bubble Guppies, what do you think?
I genuinely don't have something to think about. I know what a guppy is. It's like a fish. And I know what bubbles are. I blow them in the air with soapy water.
What?
Apparently, a bubble guppy is just a word in this show for
Mer people.
Children.
Bubble, bubble, guppy, guppy.
So yeah, the title doesn't make sense. And then, let's get into every episode. You're going to hear just the infernal main theme song.
It's frustrating to hear.
And I can tell you the lyrics. Bubble guppies. Bubble, bubble, bubble. Guppy, guppy, guppies.
Over and over and over and over.
And then the names of each of the kids.
Yep.
Bubble guppy.
Yeah. It's pretty terrible.
You know the lyrics after listening to the song for
At
3
least
seconds.
with Dora the Explorer.
Your hell is Roger that time. Let's go, jump in.
They tell you I feel like a main theme song to any show. It tells you what the show is about.
Right. Yeah.
Of where Scooby-Doo.
Hey, yeah.
This is what we're gonna do in the show.
Yeah.
But Bubble Guppies doesn't. It's a lie the whole time.
I would disagree.
We are Bubble Guppies.
It's a song with no story about a show that has no story. Speaking of, the theme of the show is if you swapped every scene around with the exception of the very first scene and the very last scene, the episode would be the same. Nothing would
make
change.
Just as much sense
from the story.
Yeah. So it doesn't. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But this is from an adult's perspective.
I don't like surprises.
Speaking of an adult's perspective, so in general, I feel like, if you're preschooler, kindergartner children, they're going to love the show. They're going to have no problem with it.
Because they just don't have the logic behind it.
Right. But if you're an adult watching it with your kids, there's going to be a lot of things that are just going to drive you nuts. Again, what the freak is a bubble guppy?
Get off of that.
Wow!
These are mer children. That's what they are.
Mer, children.
True, it doesn't flow as well.
It doesn't.
And it doesn't rhyme with bubble puppy, which is I'm pretty sure the entire reason they called them bubble guppies was so that
because they're like, hey, we want a dog underwater.
Bubble puppy.
Dogs would die underwater. I don't know if you get another logic thing. So why don't you have something that does make sense? Why don't you have a pet seahorse?
Right.
That would make way more sense.
That's silly.
But lots of things logically don't make sense. Of where they have oceans and rivers.
You're underwater. You're already in the ocean.
Or they have
they have an episode where the kids fly all around the world. Either A, this is an airplane that's flying underwater to continents that are underwater, or these children exit the ocean, fly to continents outside of the water, and somehow are just floating in the air.
They are floating.
And not suffocating.
But no, there's bubbles in the air, so they're in water.
If we can put them back together, we can all get off this island.
So that
Yeah.
gonna drive you nuts.
Yeah.
There's a fire safety episode because we all know how big of a hazard fire is at the bottom of the ocean.
There's a witch woman where she's stuck on a rock. They're trying to do a little spoof off of Ursula.
Thanks to you.
But is she a coral or something? I think she's a coral. And she's stuck
She's an
to a
anemone.
rock.
Yeah, she's an anemone.
Anemone.
She's an anemone
And
because
she
enemy
steals
runs in.
everybody's jewels and stuff, and everybody's like, oh no! She's stuck to a rock.
She has to have an octopus push her across the room to be able to get to the jewels.
That sounds like the most ferocious, fearsome sea creature of all.
Swim,
Take the
grab
jewels
the
back,
jewels, and
leave.
go away. There's nothing.
So it doesn't
she can
teach
do.
any
She doesn't have
critical
magic
thinking,
or nothing.
Logic.
No.
None of that is taught to your kids.
No.
And I will rule the ocean.
Okay, now that we've had the opportunity to vent about the nonsensical nature of this show, let's talk about the cast of characters, which we kind of touched on already. There's 6 kids. There ends up being a 7th kid. It's a diverse cast of kids, different races. One of the cool things is one of the characters, Nani.
This is my favorite thing about the show.
Now I see it's pretty sweet.
It seems like Nani is on the autism spectrum somewhere.
He
And
is. I think they
keep it-
came out and said that of where he's
Okay.
autistic.
And it makes sense.
Which is
And
cool.
They kind of keep it true to form with that.
Very.
And his character doesn't really change.
Yeah. Of where he's like, if you know much about autism, I feel like he does pretty well on it, where he doesn't have a whole lot of emotion. Like all of the kids are like wild and crazy, and he just kind of like reserved.
Doesn't really
Which
smile.
is really cool.
Even in the
Doesn't really
songs
smile.
when they dance.
But he's still like happy being with his friends. You can
Yeah.
kind of still see that.
What's a billabong? A billabong is a small Australian lake.
He is the smartest one. So a lot of the times the Guppies are like, what do we do in this situation? Nani's like, actually,
Fossils. They used to be bones, but they stayed in the ground for such a long time that they turned into rock.
or this is what we should do because I am very smart.
Anchor.
The anchor, that's right.
Which is realistic. Where I'm like, oh, that's really cool. So like he's the genius of the group.
And so.
But he just doesn't have as much emotion, loud and boisterous emotion, of where they even had like a surprise birthday party for him in one episode. And they had him, when they did like the whole surprise thing, he was like, oh wow, this is surprising. Like they didn't change him. They didn't like make him one of the other kids.
We've got more messages to deliver.
Unlike the change of probably the best character on the show that as an adult we would all connect with, which is, what's his name? Mr. Grumples? Mr. Grumpfish?
Mr. Grumpfish.
Mr. Grumpfish.
Table for one.
Guys,
When
I
he
first
entered,
saw Mr. Grumpfish, I realized that I was seen by the producers of the show.
That's my reflection.
Understand what it is like. If I were Mr. Grumpfish living in this Bubble Guppy universe, I would behave exactly like this guy.
What are you looking at?
He's perfect.
Weren't you scared? Ooh.
Not really.
Because he always comes in, Mr. Grumpfish, they're all like, hey, Mr. Grumpfish, and they're like, going out of their way to try to entertain him.
You don't have a favorite color?
Nope.
And it's
they're
awesome.
like, hey, try this really cool thing. It'll make you happy.
I don't like playing.
He's great. But then
It's realistic.
then the
For
end
the
of
first time.
Oh. But they ruin it every time. Because at the end of the episode, he becomes happy,
It looks like me.
or he gets scared and cries like a little whiny baby,
Mr. Grumpfish!
or somehow shows just an insane range of emotion.
I used to frown and scowl, but now I see.
Just let Mr. Grumpfish be Mr.
Stay
Grumpfish.
consistent.
No more grumpy life for me.
A couple of other gripes are just gripes with a lot of kids shows in general. This show, Dora the Explorer, Blaze and the Monster Machines, all these shows,
All of it.
they have the characters speak to the children. Oh,
Hey,
Well,
out of these three,
which one
which
should
one
we
should
choose?
we pick?
Where
do we go first?
Every time this scene comes up where the characters ask for participation from the children, I have not once, never seen a child respond and say, "It's the middle one!"
Which number's bigger? 5 or 4?
He's right behind you!
Swiper, yes, swipe.
None of that stuff. They don't react. So why, in the name of all that is holy, producers of children's shows, do you insist on asking for participation from these children?
Which one of these things is not hot?
Don't try to participate from it because it makes it awkward. There's like 5 seconds of silence. Hey, which one should we go with?
What's your name?
Good.
Yeah, the middle one!
5! Yeah!
You're right!
Oh, yeah.
So, in summary, the show Bubble Guppies is about mer children.
Not
Mer,
guppies.
mer children. Children.
Children.
Mer children. Mer children. So it's a show about mer children who fly around in a plane outside of the water or under the water, who just basically accomplish nothing every episode.
Maybe a few things.
Ruins the best character that's ever been on a children's show every time he comes on screen.
I can't wait to hit the street.
Ratings! Okay, that was good. You did great.
That was pretty good.
Okay.
That was our first take, by the way.
First rating. As a parent, would I enjoy sitting down and bonding with my children, watching the show as we all snuggle up together? 3 out of 10. Here's the thing. It's not an inherently bad show, but there's just so many like logical inconsistencies.
It will bother you.
That
It's just gonna bother
painful.
you.
Yeah, it
Yes.
just eats at you.
Yep.
And if, like 20 minutes feels like a long time when you're just...
Or it'll be 20 minutes after we watch that one episode and you'll be like, you know what doesn't make sense?
Yeah, the whole-
you keep
happens all
thinking
the
about
time.
it because it bothers you.
It just
that
bothers
much.
you so much. So it's a 3 out of 10. The reason it's not lower is because there's shows that are just teaching your children bad crap. Like,
Just
please don't make us
indoctrinating
review Caillou in the future. But you watch Caillou and the main character just
We're not
is
gonna
a
watch
little
those.
brat who throws a fit. You know what I mean? So as a parent, you would hate watching that. So 3 out of 10. I would put it lower, but there's nothing inherently wrong or bad about the show in terms of like it's not teaching your children anything
It's
terrible.
just not fun to watch.
It's just there's no enjoyment watching it. There's a
I'm
lot of
going to
awkwardness.
give it a 4 because of Nani.
That was a close one.
Obviously, you want your kids to go outside. Go outside, climb a tree, fall out of the tree, skin your knee, cry, get hurt, explore, have fun, grab a frog in the grass, whatever it is. Is this show something that I want my kids to watch? And I would say 7 out of 10. Because again, there's nothing inherently bad about the show. I don't think there's an episode that I'm just like, wow, this is teaching my child just everything wrong about how to behave. But it doesn't really like enrich. You know what? 6 out of 10. It doesn't really enrich their life. It doesn't teach them anything.
There's not really teaching anything.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's one episode of where they teach them how to trick or treat. I don't think they need to watch an episode of
to get
how
the
to
concept.
trick or treat.
Grab your bag and head on out before the candy's all gone.
They need to go to one house, maybe 2, to learn how to trick or treat.
Right, and then they get the concept. You don't need to watch a 20-minute
not that
episode of a show.
difficult. So
yeah, so it doesn't really teach anything
Yeah.
great, but
No.
it doesn't teach anything terrible. It's literally a show about nothing. So if you just want your kids to just waste 20 minutes of their life
and be quiet while you get
Being
something
quiet.
done.
Hey, where did everybody go?
Last rating.
Last rating.
Could you stand listening to this playlist of the songs in your car on infinite
If your
loop
kids
of
are
repeat
like,
for
I wanna
hours
listen
and
to
hours
Bubble
and hours
Guppies.
and hours and hours on end?
Yeah.
I
Or
will
in the
give it.
house.
I will give it a 3 out of 10 because every song in the show, you know all of the lyrics for the song
Because
within,
it's 2 words. Or
within
3
3
words.
seconds. Yeah, but the outside song,
Outside song?
Here we go, everybody line up. Here we go outside. Everybody, let's go, 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 go.
yeah,
It's awesome.
Outside! Outside!
Come on.
Outside, everybody, outside!
Line up.
Understood.
But that's the only one that you're gonna love hearing. Bubble Guppies, the main theme song, is gonna drive you nuts. Lunchtime is gonna drive you nuts. I don't know any of the songs
Yep.
purposefully because
Yep.
they're gonna drive you nuts.
Yep.
So
Yep.
3 out of 10.
I'm gonna go with 5.
Surprising.
I'm
So-
surprised that you're giving it a 5.
I am saying that there are way
Fair
worse
enough.
songs
Fair enough.
out there. And that one, I'm going to be okay with it on there, especially when Outside comes on.
Bubble Guppies!
But they have like other songs, they have like one main song.
Totally wrong. Make it jump up and down. Totally wrong. Come on and shake it while we rock.
That song is a little less terrible, of where they have better lyrics in it that don't have 2 words.
I think you look delicious.
Still not the greatest.
There you
though.
go.
I
Now you
wouldn't
know
listen.
all you need to know about Bubble Guppies.
That's a lot of happy customers.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe
It looks like we're being followed.
and ring that bell.
I love these guys.
Why?
Because I said so.
Okay, do you have your dad joke?
No.
What? Here,
I know.
start
I
looking
have
some
a
stuff
dad
up.
joke that's related.
Oh, you did? Well, why did you say no?
Because we'll see.
Bubble Guppies is a show that is targeted towards kindergartners and maybe a little bit of kindergarten. It is on what?
It's targeted towards kindergartners and maybe a little bit of kindergarten.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're kind of about this.
Stop laughing at me, okay? Ratings.
Ratings.
Stop.